too.
The series begins with the Duke writing a letter to his parents. In it, he informs them that his curse, which causes everything he touches to die, has shown no signs of breaking. We see a flashback where his own mother ditches him out of her fear of living with him, suggesting that they send him to their villa. She refers to him as a death incarnate. Back in the present, Victor ponders why the witch placed a curse on him. He touches a flower on the table and it immediately dies. As he continues writing the letter, he is interrupted by his maid, Alice, who informs him that his tea is ready. Victor feels uncomfortable with her standing too close to him as her body is tea as well. In the next scene, Alice serves Victor a snack, and Victor confesses that he didn't have the pair to send the letter, saying he was just practicing. He thinks to himself that he doesn't know what goes on in Alice's head, and thinks about how Alice keeps seducing him even when she knows his touch leads to death. Victor drops his head frustrated and Alice lifts her dress, assuming he wants a peek. Victor denies it and warns her to stop the harassment. Alice apologizes but says she can't stop. Victor expresses his concern about her safety and says he doesn't want to lose her. Alice interrupts him and, with her face close to his, offers him another cookie. Victor is flustered as he confirms from Alice that she heard him but chose to ignore him. She then asks him to finish the last cookie and he agrees and reaches for it, but Alice puts it in her mouth and this makes him too stunned to speak. Eventually, Victor takes a bite from the other side of the cookie and Alice lets out a moan like Lana Del Rey at her concerts, which flusters him. She tells him that it was an indirect kiss, causing Victor to become shy. Later, Victor's sitting alone on a swing, lost in thoughts about his curse. He remembers that he was cursed when he was 5 years old and has no recollection of the witch or any idea why she cursed him. His memories are hazy. As a result of the curse, he was sent to a mansion in the forest, and he's been living the life of Kevin from Home Alone since that day. His thoughts are interrupted by a butterfly. He instinctively tries to avoid contact with it but ends up touching a nearby tree instead, causing it to immediately die, and the tree branch to which the swing was connected breaks off, leading to his fall. At that moment, Alice appears, lifting the hem of her gown because she's ovulating 24/7. Victor's face turns red as he warns her not to do that again. Alice says his reaction makes her want to tease him even more. She raises her gown again, hoping to cheer him up, but Victor is flushed and reminds her that he's a man and may fall into her temptations. Alice then pins him to the tree like she's in a 50 Shades movie without touching him and questions whether he'd like to touch her, making Victor nervous. The next morning, Alice greets Victor in bed with a bowl of water for washing his face. After he finishes washing up, she serves him breakfast, but Victor tells her that he isn't feeling so big back right now. After much persuasion from Alice, he finally gives in and she decides to feed him. But when Victor opens his mouth, Alice instead is lost, staring into them, making Victor uncomfortable. She then apologizes and asks Victor to look inside her mouth too. He suddenly becomes embarrassed and decides to eat on his own instead. Alice then asks why he's so uninterested in eating, and he explains to her that after the curse, mealtime was the worst time of the day for him. After he is done, Alice clears the table and before she leaves informs him that his OG homie Philip would like to see him. The next day, Victor feels nervous to see Philip and plans to cancel, but Alice tells him it's too late. He realizes that Alice remembers Philip and also overheard him practicing what to say to Philip. He now looks forward to seeing Philip and decides to change outfits. Alice suggests he do away with the hat, but he refuses, saying he'll look uncool, to which Alice disagrees and points out his unique features while going close to him and finally leans in for a kiss, but still avoids contact with him, leaving Victor blushing like a high school girl. She returns with his clothes and offers to help him change, but he refuses, and Alice threatens to take off her clothes if he doesn't undress. While changing, Victor confesses that he feels hopeful about the meeting, then warns Alice not to touch him directly as she helps him put on the tuxedo. He continues that Philip was the only one to look at him differently when everyone else got the ick from him, and he'd never forget that. He hopes they can be friends again. Alice helps Victor put on his tie, but her melons are sweetening up his face, leaving him flustered. He asks her not to act that way in front of Philip as he doesn't want another man to see her bare skin. She reassures him that it's only for him. When Philip arrives, Victor awkwardly greets him at the front door and brings up a prank he usually played on him. Philip feels embarrassed and apologizes, but Victor clarifies that he didn't mean it that way and tries to approach him. However, Philip's bodyguard steps in, and they all look afraid of him. Victor realizes this and feels bad about the situation. They sit down to talk, and Victor regrets getting his hopes up. He then asks Philip what he wants. Nervously, Philip replies that he just wanted to visit an old friend. He also remembers Alice and asks why she's there with Victor, which upsets him. Victor informs Philip that he has a butler who is sick at the moment but will return soon. Just then, Philip takes out a cigarette because he's trying to oar a farm, and his bodyguard is about to light it when he accidentally hits the table and knocks over a flower vase. Victor catches it, but the flower inside dies. Philip sees this and becomes frightened. He decides to leave, but first asks to use the restroom because he gotta take a leak first. Alice offers to show him, leaving Victor with the guards. On their way, Philip stops Alice and asks her to leave with them, saying it's too dangerous for her to stay. Alice refuses, and Victor, who overheard their conversation, confronts Philip. He steps closer until Philip finally uses his cane to block him, calling him a freak of nature that belongs in a Tim Burton movie. Victor is taken aback, and Philip confesses that he didn't want to be there. He explains that Victor's mother, Gerbera, wants him to check on how Victor is doing, and mentions that there are rumors of Victor's younger brother inheriting the family title. If that happens, Philip warns that his family would cut ties with Victor entirely. As he walks past him, Philip tells Victor that while he may be afraid, he also feels pity for him. He insists that telling the truth is a way of making amends and informs Victor that he won't be showing up again before leaving. Alice is concerned about Victor, but he pretends to be nonchalant and asks to be informed when dinner is ready. Victor then sits at the garden alone, remembering all the good times he had even with Philip. He then cuts the flower petals as he tries to decide if the curse would be broken or not and if his family would take him back or not. He also cuts the flower to know if Alice likes him or not and is shocked that the petal left indicates that Alice likes him. He's interrupted by Alice, who informs him that dinner is ready. On their way back to the house, Victor confesses to Alice that he feels like he doesn't have the right to love her. He adds that he can't even touch her and would never know the heat or warmth of another person's body or tears, and that even if he wants to give her a flower, it'll die in his hands. Alice collects the flower and tells him that a wilted white rose means to swear one's whole life to another. She adds that it's more than enough present for her and promises to help break his curse so that they can touch all they want. Victor is touched, but only emotionally, obviously, and imagines that one day he'll be able to put a ring on her finger with his own hands. Victor's reading is interrupted by Alice, who stands too close to him, causing him to lean back. She comments that his reactions are cute, so he covers his eyes and says he won't feel self-conscious if he can't see her. Just then, Rob the butler returns, announcing that he has fully recovered and will be resuming his duties. Victor welcomes him back, and Rob apologizes to Alice for leaving her with so many responsibilities. She reassures him that it's okay because she was able to spend the night with Victor. Victor then scolds her for saying that, explaining that it could be misinterpreted. Once Rob finishes his task there, he excuses himself, leaving just Victor and Alice. They begin discussing how locked in Rob has been, especially considering he just returned. Victor looks out the window and calls Rob a superhuman. He reflects on how Rob has always been his butler since when he stayed with his family, the only one who followed him to the mansion, and admits that Rob is like a father figure to him. Returning to his seat, Victor asks why Alice is standing around. She explains that Rob has taken on all the work and wonders if her presence is disturbing him. There's a knock at the door, and Rob announces himself. Victor is surprised, as Rob was just in the yard. As Rob serves him tea, Victor expresses concern that he's working as hard as a single mom and suggests that Rob let Alice take on some tasks as well. Rob reassures Victor not to worry about him and agrees to share the workload with Alice. They both leave, but before they do, Alice gives Victor a brief glimpse under her gown. Victor is walking down the hallway when he suddenly hears Rob calling out to Alice behind him and reaching out to touch him. Victor remains alert and avoids the touch. From Victor's voice, Rob realizes that it's not Alice and apologizes, explaining that his vision has been blurry lately. Victor dodges Rob again and tells him that it's a sign of old age. He then reminds Rob that touching him could lead to his death, which might be coming soon anyways. Rob is having difficulty hearing Victor as well. Just then, Alice shows up, and Victor asks for her help with Rob. He is shocked as Rob holds Alice's face to confirm that she is indeed Alice. Victor steps back, trying to understand what is happening to Rob, and nearly bumps into a flower vase. However, Rob quickly moves it away and reassures Victor not to worry about him. He promises to serve Victor, and when he bows, he ends up hurting his back again because this oldie has reached his expiration date. Meanwhile, Victor is writing a song. He plans to make a living through music if his family decides to disown him. He admits that the piano is his only hope and dream, as he is unable to break the curse. Suddenly, Alice appears, startling Victor. She apologizes apologizes, saying she heard the song while cleaning. Victor scolds her, telling her to go back to work since Rob is taking a girly op-pop nap. As Alice cleans in front of him, Victor can't help but stare at her. Alice notices and teases him, but he accuses her of doing it on purpose. He sets up a chair and asks Alice to watch him play, suggesting that she save the cleaning for later since he can't concentrate. Alice agrees. Victor begins to play, while Alice reminisces about his confession in the garden. When the music ends, Alice compliments him, and he shyly tells her he composed it for her, using his cap to hide his face when he should have hid something else. Afterward, he decides to take a nap and asks Alice to wake him when dinner is ready. Alice then asks if she can kiss him goodnight while moving closer to him. She stops midway, avoiding contact, then pulls away, saying she was only kidding and suggests he nap in bed instead. Victor, who is pretending to be unfazed, now feels flustered. Meanwhile, at the family mansion, Viola asks to be excused from dinner, establishing her as the anorexic chick. However, once in the hallway, she asks for an apple crumble because she's starving. She skips happily, then mentions that the carriage should be ready as she plans to go out the next day. Back at the mansion, Victor's music writing is interrupted by Viola. She walks in, talking about how this mansion desperately needs a queer eye makeover, completely ignoring Victor, who attempts to stay out of her way. Eventually, she acknowledges Victor and asks him how long it has been. In response, Victor yells out for Alice. When she arrives, he scolds her for allowing Viola to enter without his permission. Viola, however, ignores him and instructs her guards to wait outside. Alice serves them as Victor and Viola have a discussion over snacks. During their conversation, Viola notices Victor staring at Alice and concludes that he is down bad for the maid. She decides to help him by teaching him her methods in the art of love. Viola suggests that he cover the dark circles under his eyes, and when he tries to use his hat for that purpose, she tells him he doesn't have what it takes to be a ladies' man. As it's finally time for her to leave, Victor tells Viola not to drop by unannounced again. She responds by telling him to hurry and break the curse so they can return to living together, adding that she's not saying this out of concern. While trying to exit, Viola bumps into someone. Initially upset, she becomes shy upon realizing it's Rob. Victor then realizes that Viola has the hots for Rob as she leaves. Excited, Victor's voice is heard calling for Alice. She finds him on the floor, terrified of a black cat. He tells her that he cannot enter the piano room as long as the cat is there, so she should remove it. Alice, dismissing his fear, picks up the cat and assumes it's a house cat because of its collar. Suddenly, the cat attacks Victor, who dodges and gets pursued by it. Rob comes to his rescue but mistakenly assumes the cat is Victor, catches it but lets it go after realizing it's just a cat, and it resumes chasing Victor. As Victor runs toward the stairs, Alice teases him by showing him that the cat tore her dress, exposing her goods like they're at a yard sale. They later discover that the cat was after Victor's bolo tie. Rob finds a note in the cat's collar that reads, "Please forgive me." Victor sits outside watching the cat eat. He remarks that, like him, the cat was abandoned. He hears another meow and looks up to see a cat with kittens. Alice and Rob then inform him that his tea is ready and invite him inside. Later, Victor is staring at the moon from the balcony when Alice joins him. She informs him that dinner is ready and asks what he is doing. Victor explains that Rob once told him his grandfather practiced in that ballroom and Alice's mother was his dance partner. He suggests that it's fate that brought them there and proposes they dance. Alice, however, insists that he should ask her properly. Victor does so and she finally agrees. They start busting some moves, close enough to each other but careful not to touch. The next morning, Alice greets Victor by giving him morning wood as usual. Victor is playing pool while Alice and Rob cheer him on. Alice decides to join the game, and they agree that the loser will have to do whatever the winner says. Alice plays first, and Victor feels uncomfortable with how she's positioned. The game progresses, and it comes down to a final shot. As Victor prepares to take his shot, Alice distracts him, causing his imagination to run wild and making him accidentally hit the ball incorrectly. Now it's Alice's turn to play, and she wins. Victor expects her to ask for something freaky, but she surprises him by asking him to accompany her to town. In the garden, Victor asks why Alice suddenly wants to go to town, and she explains that there is a costume festival. She adds that as long as his costume is thick enough, anyone that touches him would be okay. Although Victor feels reluctant to go, Alice persuades him by acting cute. When they arrive in town, Victor's costume makes it a bit difficult for him to move around. He compliments Alice on her costume. Suddenly, someone nearly bumps into Victor and Alice tries to hold him back, but he scolds her not to. She then asks if he wants to go home, but Victor replies that he'll stay a bit longer. While Alice continues to talk, thinking Victor is still following her, he struggles to navigate through the crowd. Eventually, the crowd carries Victor away and he gets knocked over. Meanwhile, Alice is searching for Victor when a woman stops her, asking if she's Sharon. Alice denies it, explaining that Sharon is her mom. The woman apologizes for the mix-up, saying she is just an acquaintance of Sharon, and then says goodbye. Alice resumes her search for Victor. In the meantime, Victor finds himself in a square and realizes he is lost. A boy who is also lost holds on to him, crying for his mother, unaware that he's about to be boinked off the face of Earth. Victor comforts the boy, telling him not to cry. Spotting a piano nearby, he decides to play a song to cheer him up. Although he feels nervous about performing in front of others for the first time, he begins to loosen up and starts playing. Some other musicians join him, and soon everyone is dancing and having a good time. Victor stops playing when the boy's mother finds him and they say goodbye to each other. Victor decides to continue searching for Alice when she suddenly pops her head into his robe. She expresses her relief at finding him and he complains about her closeness as he can't deal with more accidental touches today. Alice assumes Victor is tired and suggests they go home, but he insists he can stick around longer. Surprised that he wants to continue, Alice asks if it's really Victor. The festival carries on until dark. Alice and Victor visit a mask shop, and the seller tells them that the masks were inspired by the death incarnate that resides in a mansion in the forest, referring to Victor. Alice then takes Victor away. They find themselves at a bridge, and Victor confirms his suspicions about the strange rumors circulating about him. He feels down but continues to enjoy his ice cream because that's the only thing that cures sadness and offers some to Alice. She takes it in a teasingly seductive manner, which flusters Victor. Alice suggests they climb the clock tower. Once at the top, Victor excitedly admires the view of the city and the moon. Alice shares a fairy tale about a princess who marries the moon. She explains that there was a brave prince and a princess deeply in love engaged to be married, but a jealous witch took the prince away to the moon. Every year on what was supposed to be their wedding night, the princess kisses the moon because she got to get some action too. Victor remarks that the prince must be sending her a kiss in return. He relates the story to their own situation, expressing that Alice feels far away from him, even though they are standing together. He confesses his deep love for her but laments that he can't even hold her on their date. Alice playfully teases him about having overheard her referring to it as a date earlier. Victor apologizes for not making the night special, but Alice reassures him that she had a wonderful time. She asks him to keep her close, despite the fact that they can never touch. Later, Victor reads a letter from Alice as he heads to her room. He knocks on her door and she invites him to come in. However, when he opens the door, he realizes she's rocking her birthday suit. Instantly, he shuts the door and asks her to put something on. After a moment, she calls him in, now fully dressed. He compliments her outfit as he enters. The fragrance in the room is lovely, and Alice explains that she lit a scented candle. She offers to make him some tea, but Victor feels uneasy and remembers seeing an item of her lingerie on the table, raising his suspicions. Alice surprises him by appearing behind him, offering him the tea, which he begins to drink. She suggests they should go to bed once he finishes. Victor quickly downs the entire cup, convinced that Alice has ulterior motives. She then asks him to take off his clothes, which he does, but he reminds her that they can't touch each other. Alice tells him not to worry and to surrender himself to her. His face flushes red, and he says Alice means business because she's been watching 365 days recently. She blows out the candle and asks him to lie down, which he immediately does while still wondering what Alice would do to him. Alice tells him to close his eyes and relax his mind, then covers him with a blanket and wishes him good night. Victor feels disappointed, and Alice asks him if he didn't come because he had a hard time sleeping. She explains that everything she did was meant to help him sleep well. She apologizes for causing a misunderstanding, but Victor knows she intended it to give him blue balls. Alice promises to stay by his side until he falls asleep. Victor gazes at the moon and then asks Alice if she would like to go out with him in the next 2 nights, mentioning that he has something to show her before he drifts off to sleep. On that particular night, Alice and Victor are in a boat. Alice assumes that he wants to show her the meteor shower that occurs once every decade. He agrees and shares memories of the meteor shower he saw when he was young, expressing his desire to see it again with Alice. As they continue their conversation, Victor checks the time. It's almost time for the meteor shower, and he asks her to look up at the sky. However, Alice decides to look at him instead, saying it's more fun to look at him because he might be packing a whole meteor too. Suddenly, the wind blows Victor's hat away, and when Alice reaches for it, she falls into the water. He tries to offer her his hand to help her out, but remembers that he can't touch her. Victor starts blaming himself and the curse. Alice tells him that he should kiss her if he has any feelings for her. Victor Victor is worried that she'll die, but Alice persuades him, saying it's something that the prince and princess can't do. Victor is trying to hold back as he really wants to as well, but stops saying he can't. Victor struggles to hold back, wanting to kiss her. He finally gives in and moves to kiss her, but hesitates and says he can't. In an unexpected move, Alice tips the boat, causing him to fall into the water as well. She playfully explains that she's just trying to get into exercise by swimming. Unfortunately, they missed the meteor shower. As Alice drains the water from her clothes, Victor regrets missing such a rare event and laments that he couldn't express his feelings for her. Feeling embarrassed, he suggests that they should go home and sleep it off. Victor scolds himself for passing on a baddie like Alice and hopes he didn't hurt her feelings. Alice and Rob come in to add new books to his collection. As Alice walks past him, she ignores him, which leaves Victor wondering why, considering the previous night had ended well. He assumes she might think he's avoiding her, so he decides to say something to her. However, every time he approaches her, Alice continues to ignore him. He finally has to beg her not to ignore him, but Alice denies it. He tells her that she should have already said something inappropriate, and Alice denies again and asks to return to her work. Victor knows that's not how Alice would usually respond and grows frustrated. Rob then serves him tea, and Victor mentions Alice's strange behavior, but Rob insists she's just acting like her usual self. Victor continues to wonder why Alice hasn't harassed him yet, sensing that something is off. Suddenly it clicks for him, and he asks Rob to touch Alice for him. Rob misunderstands, but Victor clarifies that he means her forehead. At Alice's room, Victor informs her that she has a cold. Alice apologizes for letting it interfere with her work. He assumes it's because she fell into the lake, but Alice confesses it might have happened when she peeked into his room while he slept. Alice then suggests he return to his room to avoid catching her cold, but he insists on staying by her side, as that is his way of showing support and watching her all sick and sweaty in her sheets. He covers her with a blanket and tells her to go to sleep since she looks flushed. Alice responds that her flushed cheeks have nothing to do with her fever, causing Victor to shake nervously. Victor expects it to be a cold night, and Alice offers to warm his hands with her hotcakes, but he tells her that won't be necessary. He goes to bed, lamenting how he hates cold nights. Alice then suggests they play in the snow the next day, but Victor declines and Alice wraps a scarf around his neck. She tells him she made it for him and asks him to wear it the next day when they go outside to have fun. He agrees, and they pinky promise. When they step outside the following day, snow covers everything. Victor excitedly runs into the snow but ends up tripping. To him, Alice looks adorable, surrounded by snow. He playfully throws a snowball at her, and Alice reacts in a flirty manner, causing Victor to trip again. Rob asks what they're doing and joins them, putting on his gloves. He goes ahead to build a snowman and says they shouldn't have so much fun. Alice and Victor decide to make some snowballs as well. They start building one without making contact and then have to roll it into a ball. Alice tells Victor to rest while she takes over. Victor attempts to join her by throwing little snowballs at Alice, but she swiftly dodges his attempts, returning fire with her own snowballs aimed at him. Their playful banter is interrupted when a snowball hits Rob, and he chases them with a giant snowball because this guy loves to be a third wheel. Back inside, Alice offers to do the laundry and asks Victor to remove his clothes, but he refuses, insisting he'll keep the scarf on. Alice promises to give it back, but Victor runs away. Alice then realizes she lost her earring in the snow. It's her mother's, so she tries to find it, but it's too cold. Later that night, Victor decides to go out in search of it. The cold becomes too much for him and he passes out like an anemic kid. A bat flies towards the mansion, hungry and wondering if anyone will share food with her or if she will have to take it by force. Cav spots Victor on the ground and tries to wake him. When he finally wakes, he is startled to see her and asks who she is. Cav offers him her hand, but Victor explains his curse. Curious, Cav asks why he is out in the snow, and Victor tells her about Alice's lost earring. Cav questions why he would go through so much trouble for a maid, and Victor replies that Alice is special because she can give no contact gawk. He then asks her why she is out in the cold alone. Cap explains that she got separated from her friend and ended up at the mansion. She admits that she is starving and was about to shake them down for food. Victor's shovel gets stuck and his hands begin to feel numb. Calf urges him to stop and look for the earring again when the snow melts, but Victor refuses, saying it will be rusty by then. He passes out again mid-sentence. Pitying him, Calf uses her powers to melt the surrounding snow. The warmth revives Victor, and he is surprised to find the snow gone. Calf retrieves the earring and tosses it to him, saying she would have left without introducing herself but didn't want to be impolite. She introduces herself as a witch who can roast people on demand. As they walk down the hallway, Calf explains to Victor that his curse is beyond her power and asks if it's okay for him to let her in since she is a witch. Victor expresses his gratitude and mentions there is much he wants to ask her. He then introduces Calf to Alice, who is standing at the end of the hallway. He explains to Alice that Calf saved him. Alice scolds Victor for defying her wishes and going outside, and he apologizes while handing her the earring. They go back and forth thanking each other until Calf finally intervenes, taking Alice away to help her in the bathroom. Alice tells Victor to wait in the library and that she'll be there shortly. Victor wonders why they're taking so long. He imagines them showering together because he's been on the hub for too long and feels jealous. He starts singing and dancing about his wish to touch Alice. When he hears footsteps approaching, he quickly pretends to be sitting still. During dinner, Calf eats like a big back and mentions that she hasn't eaten for days. Victor asks if her witch friend is a woman, to which Calf replies that he is a guy and says that sometimes men can be called witches as well. She adds that she won't reveal anything about her kind, even under torture. Just then, Alice enters and offers Calf some dessert. After Calf finishes eating, she decides to tell Victor anything he wants to know. Victor asks if she knows about the witch who cursed him, but Calf doesn't have any information. She explains that if the curse didn't happen recently, it's unlikely anyone would know about it. Calf then shares her story, revealing that her and her friend's parents were killed in a hunt by humans. She explains that her father was human, making her half witch and half human, which leaves her feeling like she doesn't fit in. Victor realizes that Calf is much like him. He asks why she saved him since he's human, and Calf responds that it was his determination that aroused her interest. Alice walks in with Calf's mended robe, and Calf expresses her gratitude. Alice asks if all witches have robes like hers, recalling the woman she saw at the festival. Calf explains that not all witches have robes, but she knows that humans definitely don't. Victor inquires if Calf can provide any hints on how to break the curse. Calf interrupts, saying she's not the sharpest tool in the shed, confusing Victor. She adds that she's afraid she might accidentally give them spoilers, which is something she shouldn't do. Calf mentions that all the thinking has given her a headache and says that her friend does all the thinking and always makes the right decisions. Victor comments that Calf must be quite fond of her friend. Suddenly, Calf goes silent, drops her cup, and stands up. She slowly walks to the window, jumps out, and transforms into a bat, flying away. The next day, while Alice is by the snowman, she recalls how she was bullied as a child and remembers how Victor came to her aid and was friendly with her. Just then, Victor approaches from behind and asks why she is outside. He covers her with an umbrella and suggests that they head inside to stare at each other some more. Alice serves Victor tea and compliments his outfit. Victor appreciates it and asks her if she doesn't get sick of wearing the same outfit every day, offering to supply her with new ones. Alice responds that she changes every day, referring specifically to her undies. As Victor writes his music, he hears Viola's voice from outside. She enters the room excited. However, she becomes nervous upon seeing Rob and starts to stutter. Rob moves to close the door and offers to get her tea. After he leaves, Viola comments that Rob looks dreamy. She continues to talk about Rob to Victor, who reminds her that Rob is just a servant. This causes Viola to throw a rose at Victor, which gets stuck in his hat. Alice then enters with the tea and serves both of them. Viola wonders what kind of girl Alice is and decides to test her. She tells Alice that the snacks were great, but there's something she lacks as a maid. Viola pretends to study Alice and then says she lacks charm. She compliments Alice's features and asks if she can touch her breasts, to which Alice agrees. Viola admits that they're soft, but quickly regains her composure and says she'll teach Alice all about charm. Alice agrees and takes a seat. Viola then tells Victor to look away and begins to teach Alice while also observing her reactions. By this time, Victor is feeling tired and Viola calls his attention back to them. As he turns around, Alice is right there making a cute face, which he can't help but admit is charming. Alice thanks Viola and proceeds to tease Victor. Just then, Rob arrives and announces that it's time for Viola to head home. Viola feels disappointed because she hasn't had a chance to talk with Rob. Sensing her disappointment, Victor encourages her to say goodbye to Rob using her best charm. Viola is determined to put on her cutest face, but is unable to even form a complete sentence in reality. Alice watches Viola leave from the window while cleaning it. Noticing Alice's sudden cheerful behavior, Victor suspects that she has taken a liking to Viola. When Viola visits again, she comes across Rob first. He leads her to the kitchen where Victor is, but Viola knows she didn't come to see Victor. They find Alice trying to feed Victor, and neither of them has noticed their presence until Viola asks what they are doing. Victor stammers while trying to explain, but Viola isn't concerned. She thinks this is her chance to impress Rob with her girlish side. She then offers to help Alice cook, and Alice happily agrees, helping her put on an apron. Viola is excited. It's the first time she's ever done cosplay. Victor takes on the role of Viola's wingman, suggesting she shape the dough with Rob. He winks at Viola, but she thinks his behavior is a bit creepy. As they start working, Viola feels nervous. She watches Rob roll the dough and comments to herself that he looks cute. Rob then asks how they should shape the dough, and she pretends to be clueless, wanting to make him feel like she depends on him. He shapes the dough, and Viola compliments him, saying it's fancy. They continue working together, and Viola remarks that they look like newlyweds, surprising Victor, who was listening to them. Rob tells Viola that if he weren't a butler, he would have had a granddaughter her age. Meanwhile, Victor and Alice are also busy. Viola expresses her jealousy towards Victor, as he seems to have both Rob and Alice by his side and is enjoying himself. She adds that Rob should tell Victor to stop goofing around, or his younger brother might take his place as the head of the family. Rob thanks Viola, and this comes as a surprise to her. He tells her that he knows she truly cares about Victor deep down. Viola is red in the face, and Victor then compliments the bread they're making, which makes Viola call him a creep. Viola is finally leaving and wishes she could spend more time with Rob. Rob calls out to her and hands her a basket of the bread they made earlier and tells her to return any time. Alice is seen ice skating while Victor watches her. He comments that she's cute, and a bird beside him agrees. The bird then asks Victor if he has seen anyone lost nearby. Victor, shocked, thinks he might be imagining things since he heard his head. The bird tells him it can sense magical energy coming from him and asks if he is one of them. Although still scared, Victor responds that it might be because he's cursed. Victor discovers that the bird is a curse user, and he inquires whether it's looking for Kaf. He realizes that the bird is Kaf's friend Zane. Zane is surprised that Kaf told him about him, stating it's typical for her to have trust issues and view everyone to be sus. Victor admits they haven't seen Kaf since she left. He notices that Zane has been staring at Alice a bit too much, and Zane agrees. Alice then approaches them, saying she found something surprising on the lake. Before Victor can tell her he found Kaf's friend, Zane transforms to human size and introduces himself to Alice, telling her she's cute. Victor comes in between them, insisting they are too close and Zane shouldn't cross the line he has drawn. He asks Zane to stop hitting on Alice, but Zane responds that it's part of his nature, and asking him to stop is asking too much. While they argue, Alice simply watches. Victor then asks Zane if he can use his magic to find Kaf, but Zane admits he cannot. Kaf then comes out of Alice's chest to the surprise of both Zane and Victor. Alice tells him that Cuff fell into the lake and was freezing, so she had to warm her with her body heat. She puts Cuff down, and she transforms into human and says it's the first time someone waggled her between their breasts. She then informs Zane that she's been looking for him, and he says the same. He scolds her, and they argue about it before Cuff asks what they're doing there, and Victor tells her they're ice skating. Victor is struggling to ice skate, and Alice watches him. Cuff is struggling as well, but uses Zane as support, which doesn't last for long as they both begin to argue and Victor watches them. Alice then comes to him and asks if he needs help, but Victor reminds her that he can't touch her. She explains how the ice skating is done, and Victor feels confident he can do it. He tries but slips. Alice puts her face over his and is glad he tried. Zane, who is watching them, comments that it must be great to be true to their feelings. He stands up, but then Cuff wraps her arms around him and asks him to start walking. It's much easier for her to move that way. She then invites Alice to join them and takes her hand. Alice extends her hand to Victor, who grabs onto her clothes, and together they are all able to skate. As it gets dark, they realize it's time to leave. Cuff tells Victor that she and Zane have agreed to take him to the gathering of witches on the night of the next blood moon. Zane adds that since they can't provide him with any useful information, he should go there and conduct his own investigation. They both fly away. Alice then asks to accompany Victor, and when he hesitates, she gives him a cute look. Viola knocks on Alice's door, and when Alice opens it, Viola is flustered that Alice is looking like a Victoria's Secret angel. Inside the room, Viola mentions that she wanted to spend the night in Rob's room, but Victor wouldn't let her, so she decided to come to Alice's room instead. Alice offers her tea, creating a cozy girls' night atmosphere. Viola seizes the opportunity to confess that she has a crush on Rob, and Alice tells her that Rob is the perfect match for her. Viola then asks if Alice likes someone, and Alice agrees, saying he's like her Prince Charming. Viola, not realizing that Alice is referring to Victor, playfully mocks Victor for liking Alice. They talk late into the night, and eventually Viola falls asleep. Just then, Victor enters the room looking for Viola, but Alice hushes him, asking him not to disturb her. The next day, as Alice serves Victor tea, he comments on her maid outfit once again. She playfully teases him, asking if he would like to see beneath it. Victor responds by explaining that he finds her shoulders too exposed and believes it's inappropriate. He asks her to wear something more normal. Alice then shows him her collection of outfits, but he doesn't like any of them, so she says she won't be wearing anything starting from the next day and leaves. Victor plans to use the conservatory to read, but it's a mess, so they decide to clean it up together. Victor is surprised when Alice brings out tools from her breast, giving the word treasure chest a literal meaning. They get working with Victor touching the unwanted leaves, causing their death. He then says that since he started living there, he has learned what is safe and what is not when it comes to his curse, and that those rules were made at the whim of the witch who cursed him, which means that he had lived under her control. Victor remembers Alice and decides to check on her. He finds her squatting by some flowers, admiring them. Alice asks Victor to wither the flowers for her. She goes to tidy up, and as she's working, Victor calls her attention and places a crown made from the flowers on her head. He explains that it would be a shame to let them wither, so he turned them into dried flowers for her to enjoy a bit longer. Alice thanks him and says she will treasure it. Victor then determines not to be under the witch's control forever. He believes that the witch gathering could help him break the curse, allowing his mother to finally accept him so he can be with his family again. Meanwhile, at the family mansion, during dinner, Gerbera asks why Viola hasn't been dining with them lately. Viola responds that she's been visiting a friend's house, and Gerbera warns her against it. Back at the villa, Victor can't sleep and wanders through the hallway. He hears Alice's voice coming from the bathroom and rushes over. When he arrives, he sees her naked and she quickly shuts the door, apologizing. After wrapping herself in a towel, she comes out and thanks him for coming to her aid. She explains that a black cat slipped in and ran off with her dressing gown, and she has just finished washing her maid uniform. Victor offers to help her get the gown back and promises to return as soon as he finds it. As he steps out of the bathroom, Alice follows behind him, and when he asks her to go back in, she responds that it's her fault. Also, since it's a cat involved, she thinks it's better she tags along. Victor realizes she's got a point and allows her, but gives her his jacket first so she won't be cold, and they start searching. Alice comments that it'll be difficult to find a black cat in the dark, but Victor can't stop gooning over her chest. Alice notices and asks if he'd like to touch them, and just then, Victor spots the cat and tries to go after it, but Alice stops him, saying she'd like to talk with him. Victor then reminds her of their mission there. They finally catch the cat, but Alice's cloth is chewed up. Victor promises to buy her another one, but she tells him that was her favorite as he complimented it once. Victor recalls the incident, but knows that it was just a casual remark. Alice then gives the clothes back to the cat and lets it go. She thanks Victor for his help and says the maid uniform is dry so she can wear it back to her room. Victor asks her to take another shower. She agrees and asks him to join her, but Victor refuses. She also tries to return his jacket, but she's naked under it, so he refuses and immediately leaves the bathroom, wishing her a good night from outside the door, and returns to his room while Alice comes out and wishes him a good night too, and inhales his jacket. It's a blood moon, and Cap and Zane are there to take the Duke to the witch sabbath. Victor tries to fit a lot of tools into a bag since he's scared of the witches, but Alice is not bothered. Cap and Zane come to meet them, and Cap burns the bag. She tells him he's not in danger as long as they don't find out that he's human. Alice then asks to join them, and Cap agrees, but Victor is still scared. Zane tells him to take a chill pill and tells Alice that he'll protect her. He goes to find a doorway they can use while Victor wonders why they're helping him. He knows that if the witches find out they brought a human, they'll not trust them anymore. Zane finds a mirror and Cap gives them the robes that will mask their human scent. Zane tells them that he'll tell the witches that they're siblings. He casts a spell on the mirror and it becomes a doorway. He tries to riz Alice, but Kath kicks him through and follows suit. Rob then asks if they'll be okay, and Victor tells him not to worry, and goes through the doorway. Kath and Zane are waiting for Victor and Alice on the other side. As they make their way over, Victor sees many witches and feels scared because they look super chopped. He wonders if the witch who cursed him will be present. Suddenly, a ball is kicked to him, and a little boy asks him to pass it back. But when Victor picks it up, he realizes it's an eyeball, which frightens him, and the kid also looks scary. The meeting begins with Daleth, the head witch, leading the meeting. Everyone bows, and Victor thinks to himself that witches are more courteous than he expected. They start taking attendance, and after everyone responds to their names, Daleth comments that it's unusual for Zane and Kath to attend the meeting. She asks about Victor and Alice, to which Kath replies that they are her children with Zane, contrary to their earlier plan. Zane scolds Kath for saying that, but some witches congratulate them. Alice teases Zane by calling him father, to which he rizzes her back. Daleth finds this interesting and they continue with the meeting. When it ends, Victor thinks it's too soon as he still hasn't found the witch or any leads regarding his curse. One of the witches asks Zane why he has children with Kath since she has human blood. Zane defends her and the witch apologizes. To lighten the mood, Zane suggests they play a game. He kicks a live ball to Victor, who freaks out upon realizing it, and everyone joins in to play. Meanwhile, Alice quietly approaches Daleth, having remembered her from the festival. Daleth recognizes her too and asks what she wants. Alice expresses a desire to know if her mother had any connections with them, but Daleth tells her that she was only an acquaintance of Alice's mother. Just then, Victor comes crying for a kerchief after being hit in the face with a ball, acting super fruity, and Alice hands him one. Daleth notices their closeness and tells Victor that he has grown, indicating she has known him for a while. She also mentions his curse, which surprises Victor. Daleth explains that she saw him at his family's mansion when he was little and admits to knowing about the witch who cursed him. Alice asks to meet the witch, hoping to break the curse, but Daleth informs them that it's impossible because the witch is already dead and she has no idea how to break the curse. Victor showers Daleth with questions, but she lacks the answers. She advises him to give up discussing it, as she despises that witch. She then tells him that his curse is not just something some witch can cast and advises him to give up. She then burns off his disguise, making the other witches stop their play as they perceived a human. Cap signals for them to run back to the mirror, but the witches try to stop them from escaping. One witch attacks with a plant that grips Alice, but Victor holds it, causing the plant to die instantly. They ninja run toward the mirror where Zane and Kath are already waiting. Some witches are still chasing them, but Kath uses her fire to create a boundary until Alice and Victor successfully get through the mirror. Zane and Kath join them and the mirror disappears. Victor, catching his breath and relieved that they made it, apologizes to Kath and Zane. Zane finds the situation funny and reassures Victor that the witches will forget about it soon. Kath says they won't have to attend another witch's sabbath for a while. Zane tries to rizz Alice up again, but Kath pulls him away and presses him against the mirror, threatening to send him back in. Alice then thanks Victor for protecting her. Kath asks if he found any leads, and he shares what Daleth told him, thanking them for their help. Victor then asks Kath, who is now sitting on Zane, why she is helping him, noting they haven't known each other for long and there's nothing in it for her. She responds that she doesn't know why, but on the first day she met him, she saw him going all out for someone else, which made her want to become his friend. Victor expresses that he feels the same way, and Kath drags Zane away. She tells him by the doorway that starting next time, they will come over as friends. Zane bids goodbye to Alice, and Kath kicks him away. Victor feels happy to have some human interaction besides his busted butler. He says that he doesn't know what will become of his curse, but he is determined to uncover the truth. He thanks Alice for sticking with him and hopes he can continue to rely on her. Alice reassures him, saying it's tough not being able to touch the one she loves, and teases him again while Rob overhears them from outside. Victor feels like all they do lately is talk about Alice's clothes. He points out he noticed Alice only wears black like a goth girl, and Alice says she likes it. Victor suggests she try other colors for a change, like white, which he likes. Alice is okay with that. He thinks a little too much about it, seeing her in a wedding dress, but that only makes him anxious. Alice shows Victor a weird-looking magic pot she bought. The pot is said to be created by a witch who cared for it daily. There is even a book of recipes in it, and Alice is excited, although Victor does not quite see why. She suggests they try it out by cooking with it and says it's a love potion they're making. With the ingredients ready, they begin the process. Victor, despite being reluctant, has to partake in it, according to Alice. Alice read the special words from the book to activate the pot. The words are basically flattery, and the pot reacts to this, heating up. Alice gradually adds the ingredients, but given the ingredients are all ridiculous, Victor can't help but protest that those aren't cooking ingredients. Alice starts stirring as soon as all the ingredients are in. Victor reviews how very confused he is about witches. Remembering the witch at the Gauss told him to give up. He can't do that, but still, he doesn't know what to do next. Thinking about this, he examines the pot closely. The pot rudely snaps at Victor and he fearfully apologizes. Alice explores, checking out other words to say, to use more features from the pot. With another sentence, the plot blushes so hard it releases a smoke screen. It's Victor's part now, and he is to stir the soup. According to Alice, Victor should stir while thinking of all the fun and happy things in his life. Victor heeds, and only Alice comes to mind because Victor beats his meat to her all the time. When it is done, Alice reveals to Victor the potion isn't ordinary and says it is to remove a witch's curse. Victor is surprised it isn't a love potion, and Alice explains to him that the potion wouldn't be effective if one gets distracted while stirring. Victor worries he may have been distracted for a bit, but Alice assures him it's fine as long as he didn't think about the curse while stirring. Alice says they should try anything they can to free Victor from the curse since the witch who cursed him is dead. He finally sips it and it tastes like my grandma's feet. Alice hurriedly makes Victor try out to see if his curse is broken, but the flower he tests out on withers. Despite it not working, as the curse wasn't cast by just a regular witch, Victor thanks Alice for the encouragement, and she promises to figure out another way. They're stuck on what to do with the pot now, as it'll curse them if they try to get rid of it. Victor gives it to Rob, and the pot is happy to be leaving with its new owner. Just then, Victor finds Viola's peeping. Without answering any questions, she furiously goes after the pot. Meanwhile, Alice, while searching, finds something else. At family dinner, Grebber is troubled concerning Viola's absence. Rob keeps the pot in a certain room and a flower vase catches his attention. What Alice found is a musical note, the final work of McFarlane before he died. Despite being one of the most beautiful songs, anyone who performs the song goes mad, but if done correctly, it can cleanse one from a curse. As Victor begins playing the note, a man is suddenly in front of him. As they get talking, the man is revealed to be McFarlane. He says he has become a ghost to watch over his song, even in death, since no one can play it perfectly, and he asks Victor if he can do it. Alice asks if Victor is tweaking, seeing him talk to himself, but later reveals she can see McFarlane. McFarlane threatens he'll haunt Victor for the rest of his life if he doesn't get the song right. Victor does his best to concentrate while playing, for his and Alice's sake. As Victor completes the notes, it disappears along with McFarlane, who commends him for the performance. Victor's curse-breaking expectations are cut short, seeing as the curse to be cleansed off was not his but McFarlane's. Victor is at Alice's door to fetch her to the mansion. Alice shows up in lingerie despite Victor's strict request for her to fully put on some clothes, and he quickly shuts the door. While she is dressing back in the room, Victor can't help but wonder if Alice sees him as a guy, as she isn't bothered about showing some skin. He remembers Viola once mentioned to him the suspension bridge effect, where people mistake fear and anxiety, making their hearts pound, as love for another person. He plans to try this on Alice, scare her and make her heart pound. As Alice steps out of her room, Victor springs out of his hiding place and attempts to scare her, but this doesn't work. Victor goes on to try telling her a scary story, but even he is more afraid of his story than she is. His next attempt is to show her a scary picture, but he doesn't find it on the shelves. The painting is on the wall, and Victor is creeped out, but Alice isn't. He is frustrated. She isn't afraid even as the picture changed positions from the shelf to the wall on its own, and mentions the suspension bridge effect can't work if her heart doesn't pound, and Alice says her heart is pounding only because she's with Victor. Victor is still creeped out and curious as to how the picture went up there. Alice quietly admits to Rob that she was the one who hung it. The longer Victor stares, the more terrified he is, and because of this, he mistakenly knocks down the vase Rob found. Victor is definitely in trouble with Rob and dashes away. Alice discovers Victor at his hiding spot, and as she asks why he is hidden, Victor explains he'd rather face Rob when he's not spitting fire. He urges her to shut his hiding spot in fear of being discovered, and she does, but with her inside as well. After Alice asks, Victor explains how unforgiving Rob is until he reflects on his actions, adding that he is scary. Rob is nearby, calling on to Victor. As they try to stay quiet, Alice gets closer and volunteers to protect Victor. He gets awkward and uncomfortable, afraid he might mistakenly touch her, and so he gets out as soon as Rob leaves. They quickly head on to find another hiding spot, but Rob catches Victor in the hallway. Victor thinks fast, does an okay impression of Alice, and Rob buys it. Victor's and Alice's next spot is under his bed. As they discuss, Alice discloses her heart beating like an EDM banger, adding it could be the suspension bridge effect. Before the conversation heads any further, they're busted by Rob. Rob shows some jewelry to Victor. He says they must have been stolen from the lady and senior lady of the house by a maid who stole some of the family's valuables. The vase must have been her temporary hiding spot for it, but she was never able to retrieve it. Rob quickly gets back to the issue of the broken vase as soon as they're done with the jewelry talk. Kaf tries to learn the alphabet from Rob to surprise Zane, who's at the circus where they both work. Rob encourages her to study hard, emphasizing the importance of the letters. Meanwhile, Walter encounters Viola as he walks through the mansion. He suspects she's going to see Victor and insists it's his duty as head of the family and to know his sister's plans. Viola counters by reminding him that he's the second-born, and if Victor succeeds, he could take Walter's place. Frustrated, Walter throws a fit, and Viola continues to taunt him. Over cups of tea, Walter constantly hates on Victor with Viola. He tricks her amidst their discussion, and she mistakenly discloses her intentions of going to Victor's villa. He is even more frustrated, asking why Viola has a soft spot for him and if she doesn't think he'll be a better head. As much as Walter would love her to pick him, Viola says she is as neutral as Switzerland on this. She heads out, asking Walter not to tell on her, and taunts him as a second-born once again. Despite not making any promises, Walter covers up for Viola at lunch, telling their mother she went to a friend's. He is determined to prove he's better than Victor and is a better head. As Viola arrives at the villa, she sees Kaf only. Even after Kaf introduces herself, Viola still smells something fishy about her. She feels she should do something about it, as Kaf may be a burglar and then Rob might reward her. She attempts an attack, but it's so ineffective Kaf thinks she wants to play. Viola is grieving the fact that she might inherit her mother's physical features and not like Kaf's. Kaf heads over to her to help her up, but Viola sees this as a chance and tries attacking again. It's still pretty harmless and Kaf still thinks they're goofing around with her. Viola proceeds to bind Kaf so she can't move, but Kaf is relaxed. She says Viola and her brother the Duke look alike. Though surprised Kaf knows Victor, she doesn't like being grouped with him, but she agrees with Kaf that Victor is a green flag. Kaf asks if she likes him, and before she can give a definite answer, Victor and the rest come in. Dumbfounded by the look of things, they apologize for the intrusion and leave. Viola begs to explain, mostly because of Rob, as to her, she can't marry anyone else but Rob. After it's all settled, Viola explains she thought Kaf was a bugler and apologizes to her, adding she didn't know Victor had friends. It's no big deal to Kaf, as Viola is only a child, and Viola stresses she's a lady. Viola is happy and all over the place after she finally gets what she wants, as Rob strokes her hair to get some dust out of it. It's snowing outside and Victor is sitting with Alice while they play a game of chess. He comments that it's easier to invite her for a cup of tea on nights like this. They continue to play and yap for a while, and then Alice shares that evenings like this remind her of the first time she arrived. On that night, the Duke was in his room, gloomy as usual, when Rob arrived. After commenting on the state of the room and receiving rude replies from Victor, Rob announced that he had brought someone with him. Alice introduced herself, mentioning that it had been ages since she last saw him. Victor, stirred by her presence, asked who Alice was and denied ever knowing her. He then questioned Rob, asking who permitted him to bring a maid. Rob explained that he had the permission of the lady of the house and added that Alice and Victor were friends from childhood. Victor claimed he couldn't remember that and added that he hated his childhood days and didn't want to be reminded of it. He then rejected Alice, saying the mansion wasn't a place for her. Alice revealed to Victor as she ran to him that she never forgot him. After her mom died, she stayed in the care of her aunt. She added that meeting him again is a dream come true. Victor warned her not to come near him, but she said she was aware of what would happen. Even as Victor rejected and sent her away, Rob received her and led her to her room. Before leaving, she mentioned that he still had the same gentle look as when they were small, despite growing up, and Victor was even more pained. He didn't want to be near anybody and wished to die alone and on his own like Queen Elizabeth. Although the place was just an old shed, Alice was okay with staying there. Rob took that time to explain Victor to Alice, almost as if apologizing for his behavior, but Alice was fine and understood. He welcomed her and she promised to do her best. Victor always had issues with Alice every time he came across her. He complained about her dress and wished for her to be dismissed, but she remained calm and even taunted him a couple of times. When she brought him food, he refused, saying he wouldn't eat until she left. Stressing he didn't like her after she asked, he spoke his usual words of low self-esteem, but Alice didn't take too much into it and even called it poetic. She left him at it and even complimented his gloves, which he took off as soon as she did on her way out. Although this was difficult to put up with, Alice did it anyway. Rob and Alice, while working, discussed Alice's life. While she had a rough life as her auntie was super broke, she knew for sure it couldn't be compared to what Victor passed through. Just then, Victor came in and asked Alice to follow him. He took her to his unkempt room and requested she clean it in 3 days, and if she couldn't, she'd be fired. Determined to do her best, Alice cleaned up all night. As her hands were cold, she remembered how Victor helped her back when she was little. The next morning, the room looked brand new, and Victor was amazed. Alice mentioned she got motivated by the thought that she could be useful to him. At that moment, Victor gave up on trying to make her leave. Alice expressed her desire to stay by his side, explaining that she had nowhere else to go. Since Victor had not yet remembered her, she said she would wait until he did. With tears in his eyes, Victor asked how long Alice planned to remain there with him, and she replied that she would stay until his tears subsided. Unable to contain his emotions any longer, Victor began to cry like me during a 2000s rom-com. That didn't quite settle his problem with Alice. Since she wasn't leaving, he decided to leave. It was snowing and the cold got to him. He continued, full of self-pity as he remembered the witch's words and dreaded her for ruining his life. Overcome by the weather, Victor decided to give up and die there. As he lay to die, he remembered the girl he met as a kid was also named Alice and wished he could have seen her again. Victor, with his last words being Alice, finally gave in. But just then, Alice came to his aid. He was surprised at first, but later asked her to let him be, as he had already made his decision. Before he could continue, Alice threw some snow on him and asked why he was throwing away his life. She said she'd hate to see him give up along the way, regardless of what he was going through. She mentioned he should consider the feelings of those he was leaving behind, adding some people cared about him. She mentioned she was lonely and sickly as a kid, miserable from her anxiety and hopelessness until Victor saved her with his kindness. She added she was only living thanks to him. After helping him up, she asked that they head back and continue living together forever. Then she led him back to the mansion. Rob was relieved Victor was alive, and Victor gives Alice the credit for that. He apologized to Rob for making him worry, and Rob was alright, and even asked if he's getting along with Alice now. After some thought, Victor said he thinks he wants to wife Alice up. Alice's checkmate brings Victor's attention back to the game. His absence gave Alice some cheating advantages. He is stunned for a few, but then accepts defeat, pointing out it isn't fair. According to him, she's adorable and it's unfair. He says it's impossible not to like Alice. It's Christmas Eve. Viola called ahead to let Victor know she's coming. Alice teases him, expressing how she wishes they could spend the evening together alone. Victor becomes shy and awkwardly runs off, but Alice quickly clarifies that she was just joking. She mentions that Zane and Cuff are also coming, making it sound like it will be a party. Victor feels uneasy about this. He doesn't think it's right for him to participate in such a human activity. However, Alice reminds him that he has always been human. He then worries about wearing the same clothes he normally wears to a Christmas party, but Alice assures him that his fit check is serving. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Viola is with her mother and wishes her a Merry Christmas. Gerbera brushes off the greeting and gets straight to the point, Viola's recent absence. Viola explains that she has had things to attend to. Her mother insists that Viola stay home for the day, as Christmas is meant to be spent with family, and Viola accepts. She then criticizes Viola's outfit, calling it childish, and Viola apologizes. Despite what her mother said, Viola prepares to leave. She decides to go without an escort and is okay with having only her driver. Walter hears from his hiding spot. He wonders why she would make a 2-hour trip to go see Victor even on Christmas. The number 2 reminds him of his position in the family and he loses it. He imagines Alice in a Santa Claus outfit and is carried away by it because he has plenty of weird kinks. Alice promises to try and prepare the best meal she can, adding they'll have a good time and Victor is happy. Viola stares at the present she got for Rob throughout her journey, hoping she can summon up the courage to give it to him. It turns out Walter took the place of the driver and traveled alongside Viola undercover. He sees this as a chance to find out how Victor, the accursed firstborn, is doing. Viola doesn't notice, so he feels it's all working out. Zane and Kath finally arrive at the villa. They step in with Merry Christmas wishes alongside a Christmas tree, and Alice is thankful as they were just thinking about what to do about that. Kath is excited and mentions this is the year she might finally meet Santa. She asks Alice to join her in decorating the tree, and as usual, Zane the simp wants in too but is rejected. His broken spirit is immediately up again and he suggests Victor joins him in decorating the room while the ladies handle the tree. The tree decoration is going pretty well. Victor mentions to Zane it'll be better if the 4 of them decorated the room as it's a lot of work for just 2 people. Zane can't have the ladies do the hard work and Victor he adds that asking Kath to do anything hard would only create additional work. Zane continues that Kath isn't capable of much and the only thing she's got is being cute. She also can't tell a lie and has a big heart. She has always been like that since she was little. Zane thanks Victor for being her friend, although Victor feels he should be the one thanking them. The decorations are finally complete. Kath wakes Zane up to show him how bussing the tree looks. Remembering Victor's advice to tell Cap how he feels, Zane compliments the tree and then Calf. Noticing there wasn't a reaction from Calf, Zane checks only to realize she fell asleep. Alice mentions Calf wants to stay up at night to meet Santa, so she's sleeping in preparation. It's all kinds of weird to sleep standing, so Zane helps her to a better place. He lets her sleep on the couch, covers her with his jacket, and goes to Victor and Alice. Calf slightly opens her eyes as she isn't fully asleep and then snuggles in the jacket. Gerbera sits alone at the dinner table, as this time even Walter isn't around. On arrival, Viola dashes into the villa. Walter notices she dropped something, the present she got for Rob. He thinks she got it for Victor and is furious. Finally getting into the building, he sees the place is deserted just as he expected Victor's place would be. From what he knows, only 2 people stay there with Victor, and even he knows it's a sad thing. He goes through the villa like he's one of the spy kids and then comes across a Santa costume and for some reason puts it on. Just then Cap comes across him. She's stunned and then excited as she thinks Walter is Santa. His confusion makes her mood drop real quick, and she immediately questions who he is. He thinks fast and quickly gets into the Santa act, and Cap gets excited again. Since she asks, Walter Claus gives Viola's gift to her as her Christmas present. She's convinced he is Santa and begins to follow him, questioning him excessively. Walter steps quick to escape and Calf chases after him. Odd, when he thinks he has escaped, Calf catches up in her bat form. Walter realizes she is a witch and she offers him a lift to the chimney. Although he doesn't need it, she takes him anyway. Viola is still searching for her lost present. She heads back to the others as she didn't find what she was looking for. Just then, Alice and Rob come in. Rob pulls the Santa laugh and catchphrase. Alice says they had the suit ready to surprise Calf, but they've lost it. She asks about Cough, and Victor says she left to search for Santa herself. Viola feels everything is ruined as she couldn't find the present and gives up. Just then Walter comes crashing down the chimney. They all stare in surprise, and Walter tries to pull off the Santa catchphrase. Viola can't believe he followed her, and from there, Victor realizes it is Walter, his younger brother. Walter drops the act as he has been caught in 4K and asks Victor to call him his rival and not younger brother. After he has a little harsh conversation with Victor, Viola asks him to apologize for crashing the party. When he does, Viola scolds him and Victor catches a stray bullet. Walter notices Zane is also a witch and is amazed Victor can't break his curse despite knowing witches. In his thoughts, he says Victor isn't fit to be the head of the family even if he breaks the curse. Just then, Calf comes in wondering where Santa is. Walter replies he left and Calf asks who he is. Viola squints and then recognizes her present with Calf. At first she thanks Calf for finding it, but Calf mentions Santa gave it to her. As Rob and Alice head on to set up dinner, Calf and Viola struggle over the present. Walter mentions Victor can't even take control of the room, pointing out that he couldn't inherit the family, but Victor is focused on the struggle going on. Victor says he only wants to inherit the family legacy as he is the firstborn, but he feels that he must first break his curse and be welcomed back by the family. Walter responds by saying that Victor has it easy. He explains that he has always been treated as an alternative to Victor, stating that Victor's existence shapes his future. Their conversation is interrupted by the struggle between Calf and Viola. Victor promises to listen to Walter after the situation calms down. Viola tricks Calf by capping that the design of the present is poisonous. In response, Calf goes to the rescue by setting it ablaze. Victor quickly gets the present from Calf and puts out the fire. He hands it to Viola and settles the conflict. To Victor's surprise, Viola thanks him for the first time. Walter stares at Calf for a while, and when his attention is back, he offers a friendly wager to Victor. The first person between them to find out the truth about the curse will inherit the family title. Since that's what Walter wants, Victor accepts. With that settled, Walter exits trying to look cool, but it flops hard. They begin their Christmas celebration and are all having a great time. The fun continues and Viola even gets to give Rob her present. With all that's going on inside, Walter is freezing outside. He had forgotten he couldn't leave without Viola. As the party is wrapped up, they all return. Victor and Alice discuss as they walk. She taunts him about kissing and falls as he attempts to back away. It reminds him of when he was covered in snow and ready to die, but Alice saved him. He recalls telling Alice that he liked her and promising they'd live together. He notes that he now has friends and even hosts a party, saying that many things make him happy and that he's grateful he didn't give in. He thanks Alice for her influence in his life. Alice expresses her gratitude for his words and says she will consider it her Christmas present. After playfully teasing him, she lies down in the cold and, as she puts it, wants to share in the coldness he's feeling. While Alice is crashed out in her room, she dreams about when she was a little girl. In her dream, she was walking around alone until her mother caught her, reminding her to stay in bed like a good little girl, especially as she had a weak constitution. Alice apologized, but Sharon told her that she was not upset, just worried about her. As Sharon walks Alice back to her room, they exchange greetings with other maids, and Sharon even offers solutions to some of their problems. Everyone loved her, and so did Alice. They came across Victor running in the hallway. He waved at Alice as he passed them. Sharon realized that Alice made friends with Victor and was walking around the house hoping to see him. Alice blushed as her mom teased her. Rob came along, but Alice was shaking in her boots and hid behind her mother's skirt. He reassured her that there was nothing to fear and asked what she thought about her mother's work. Alice replied that her mother is amazing and she said she wants to be a fine maid just like her when she grows up. Sharon cried from how adorable her daughter was. Rob mentioned that he looked forward to the day when he and Alice could work together, and then he left. Sharon returned Alice to bed, and before going back to work, she hugged Alice, assured her that she'd protect her no matter what, and added that she loved her. Alice then wakes up and holds her necklace, missing her mother. The Duke's family is having dinner, and their mother is upset. Viola thinks both of them being gone on Christmas might have been the last straw, and blames Walter for secretly following her, while Walter blames Victor. Calf is excited, but Zane worries about her, recalling Viola's comment that he coddles her too much and should let her do shopping by herself sometimes. He decides to watch her from a distance. Calf gathers everything on her shopping list and wants to leave, but is stopped by the seller for cash. Calf feels confused, unsure of what to do since Zane is not with her. Although Zane wants to help her, he holds back. Calf tries to trade with a cat-shaped rock she found and planned on giving to Zane. The seller feels awkward and asks Calf if she wasn't given any money to pay for her items. Calf now understands that cash means money. She apologizes and pays before running off to the bakery. This time she pays immediately, making Zane proud. On her way home, a boy bumps into her, but she immediately stops him and snatches her money back. The boy stumbles backwards and falls towards a spike. Calf quickly drops her bag of food to save him. He feels remorseful and apologizes. Calf then realizes that she dropped the stuff she bought, but Zane comes to help her pick everything up so they can head home. He doesn't think he can shake the habit. At the villa, Victor's having trouble sleeping again and decides to take a walk around the mansion. Alice offers to join him in bed and goes to her room to get some pajamas. Victor is in bed when she returns. He's surprised she actually meant it and says he'll try to stay still and that she can leave once he falls asleep. Victor thinks about how the one he loves is lying beside him and it's kind of freaking him out. He stares at her, noticing her lethal face card. She playfully asks if staring will help him sleep, but he admits he's tense and it's harder to fall asleep. Alice claims to know what he means and suggests taking off her pajamas, saying she usually sleeps nude. Victor stops her, but she soon starts trying to strip again. Victor is worried about Rob seeing them and mentions the disapproval of his mother regarding unmarried couples sleeping together. Alice asks about his feelings toward his mother, and Victor admits they are complicated. He wants to reconcile with his family, especially if he can break the curse. He promises to tell his mother about their relationship and is willing to sever ties if his family disapproves, but Alice interrupts him, advising against it. Victor insists he'll cross the bridge when he gets there, but first, he needs to focus on breaking the curse. He says he can sleep now so Alice can go. After saying goodnight, Alice leaves, visibly unsettled, and thinks about Victor's returning to his family's estate as its heir. Once the curse is lifted, she heads to find Rob. Rob remembers when Victor proudly showed him the mitten Alice knitted for him. He was so happy compared to those days. After Victor was cursed, Rob was tasked to care for him. He didn't know what to do. He'd never raised a child before and feared he wouldn't be able to bring him up alone without a woman's help, but he considered it an honor to be entrusted with such an important task. However, as Victor grew older, they began to butt heads. He fought with Rob and ran away many times. Eventually, Victor shut himself in his room like Elsa from Frozen and began to retreat into his shell. He also expressed a desire to die more often. Rob was worried about him, especially as he had no friends. Rob thought of Alice, who happily accepted the maid position to be near Victor. Now, she's more dear to Victor than Rob could have possibly imagined. Alice asked Rob if she's weird. She hopes that Victor breaks the curse and lives with his family once again. And yet, Victor is fond of her, his maid. While she appreciates his affection, when she thinks about how that might estrange him from his family, she can't take any pleasure in it. Rob reassures her that her feelings are valid, and ultimately, if they're happy, he is too. Meanwhile, an owl watched their home. Victor plays a cheerful song for Alice, who compliments his talent. Though glad that she likes it, Victor insists it isn't a thank you for the mittens. He says he's just really glad to be able to spend time with her. Alice feels the same and tries to be naughty, but he quickly shifts back to music. Victor invites Alice to sing along as he plays The Owl and the Pussycat. He likes her singing. They sing together until the end. He can't believe his heart would start pounding over some nursery rhyme lyrics. Alice says she felt kind of embarrassed too. Victor didn't know she could feel something like that. She replies that she may have been embarrassed, but it doesn't bother her because of him. Victor immediately wants to call it a night while he can still think straight. As they walk to his room, Victor mentions feeling cheerful lately and says he owes it to Alice. He hopes he can one day break his curse and return home with her. Alice immediately says good night, blows him a kiss, and leaves. She apologizes when she's outside the door. She says she's just a broke peasant, and no matter what Victor may think, when the day comes they won't be able to see each other freely anymore. She knows this and it saddens her. And Walter and Viola search the storeroom for clues to break Victor's curse. Walter makes a fuss about how Viola is fond of Victor and asks if he's not good enough for her. She reminds him that it was his idea to help her. Walter believes if he could find some clues to the curse, he'd be one step ahead of Victor. No, 2 steps. The number 2 triggers him. Viola finds a servant's logbook from around the time Victor was cursed and runs off with it, leaving Walter to tidy up. In the hallway, Viola hides the book from her mother, Gerbera, who criticizes Viola's appearance and insists on a new dress. Gerbera is finishing a letter when Viola comes in to show her the new dress. She approves and says Viola should always dress like that from now on. Viola protests that it's not her style, but Gerbera insists it's an improvement and stresses the importance of maintaining their noble family's reputation. Viola feels upset that she can't live her own life. Later, she rants to Victor and Alice, calling her mother a sharp-tongued, flat-chested old hag with creepy makeup. When Victor suggests she looks good in the dress, Viola snaps at him. She declares her intention to move in with them, leading to an argument with Victor. Rob enters and compliments her dress. Viola is suddenly proud of it and says she'll wear something like that sometimes when she visits. Viola wants to spend the night in Alice's room. She decided not to run away, but she did bring her luggage, so they might as well have another girly slumber party. She says she also has something to give to Alice. When they get into the room, they find Kath already there. Viola is surprised to see her and says it's impolite to visit without notice. Alice says it's no big deal, so Viola says it's okay too. Then she offers Kath her extra pajamas to sleep in. They discuss Viola's mom, who was upset about Christmas, especially with Walter, and Alice remarks on the pressure on Victor and Walter to be strong, but she finds them both hopeless. Kath confronts Viola about acting like she doesn't like her brother when she had already earlier said she did like him, but Viola quickly defends herself and changes the topic of discussion to love. She urges Kath to talk about her love life, but Kath refuses and tickles her when she insists. Alice reminds Viola about the gift. Viola pulls out the book she found. Alice appreciates it and flips through it, recognizing her mom's handwriting. They attempt to sleep, but the bed is too small, leading to an argument between Viola and Kath while Alice just smiles. Meanwhile, an owl watches them, and Dolph decides it's time to act. Gerbera mentions Viola's absence and asks Walter where she's been going. She adds that she hasn't forgiven him for the Christmas incident yet, causing him to panic. Zane meets Daleth, who asks him for a favor. She'd like him to deliver a message to his pals. Meanwhile, Rob sees Alice reading the book and asks about it. She tells him and adds that some of the pages were written by him, but he doesn't remember much. She tells him the entries are mostly about work and there's so much to learn from it. Suddenly, Alice finds a sentence about 2 women in white nuns' habits coming to the mansion. Rob doesn't remember this, and Alice thinks her mother must have written about Daleth and someone else. Just then, Zane bursts in with Victor trying to stop him. He walks into the room regardless, greeting Rob and Alice. He says he's got a message for Alice from Daleth, which is that they should be friends. Victor and Alice look confused, so Zane explains that Daleth means Alice should avoid them. Victor refuses. They're his leads for finding clues about his curse. Zane responds that, regardless of what Daleth says, he and Kath will continue to help Victor, adding that it would be a shame for Victor to die a virgin. Zane then asks about the book, to which she replies. She also mentions she just started and will take her time with it. Zane asks for feedback if she finds anything. He then decides to go have some fun with Victor now that he's seen Alice. Alice promises to bring tea for them later. Later, as Alice brings the tea, she sees Zane and Victor joking around and giggles at the sight. She overhears Victor stop Zane from dedicating a love song to her, insisting he should be the only one to say he loves her. Zane thinks that was super cringe, and Victor retorts that Zane is not being true to his feelings in front of Kath. They continue bickering while Alice blushes outside the door. As Rob lights the candles, Victor asks if he has seen Zane. Rob says while he was making his rounds on the second floor, he heard someone climbing the stairs. Victor wonders if Zane is exploring the mansion. Meanwhile, Alice can't find the book. Zane goes up to the rooftop. Daleth had also instructed him to get rid of the book as it might have something about her. Zane refused, but she threatened him with Kaf. Zane is about to burn it when Victor finds him. Zane comes clean about everything and returns the book to Victor, adding that there's useful information in there that Daleth wants hidden. Victor insists Zane burn it. He prioritizes Kaf's safety and says he'd do the same if threatened. Zane reveals that Daleth is watching the Duke and Alice and bets she's watching them at the moment. She uses all sorts of eyes in the human realm to conduct surveillance. However, she can't listen in on what they say because that's something only the FBI can do. So, he offers a way to protect Cap without destroying the book. He uses magic to disintegrate it, but keeps a tiny scrap to restore it later after Daleth has removed her surveillance. They need to make it convincing, so Zane asks Victor to pretend he's sad, and Victor does so perfectly. To keep Zane's secret, Victor tells Alice he borrowed the logbook and will return it later. She is relieved as she thought she lost it. Victor tells Alice that he'll protect her no matter what. Alice is surprised and remembers her mom saying the same thing to her. She says Victor is such a wonderful, reliable person, leaving him flustered. Alice says she's really happy and all, but asks him not to go very far. He assures her he'll stay by her side and suggests they have some tea. Victor ponders what Daleth might be hiding, whether it relates to his curse, the witch's debt, or how to break the curse. He says the puzzle is full of missing pieces, but he's determined to find a way to break the curse for himself and Alice. Zane spots a cat and makes funny gestures, causing Daleth to laugh. She admits he irritates her but is content with what she saw and decides to leave things as they are for now. Removing her mask, she enters a room and says it seems that fate and karma really do exist, then reveals Sharon laying in a box like a crumble cookie. Victor receives a letter from Gerbera asking to meet and talk at the main house in a week. Alice meets him and asks how he's feeling about going to the main house. He replies not so good. He hasn't broken his curse yet, so he doesn't know what she's gonna say. Alice assures him that everything will be fine and asks him to cheer up. He's anxious. She has never asked to see him before. He's always let Rob handle the correspondence with the main residence, so he hasn't seen his mother since childhood. He clarifies that he may be scared, but that doesn't mean he doesn't want to see her. Alice understands. Victor continues that the truth is he wanted to see her after he'd broken his curse, and it pains him for her to think that nothing has changed since then. Alice wants to tap his shoulder to comfort him but stops herself. She offers to accompany him, which makes Victor glad. After she leaves, he thinks about his feelings for her and plans to share them with his mother to make it official with the maid. Rob informs Kaf and Zane that Victor and Alice are at the main residence, disappointing Zane since Alice isn't there. Rob apologizes and says that it's a trial that Victor and Alice must one day overcome. In the carriage, Alice asks what Victor recalls about his family estate. His only memories are of playing the piano or horsing around. He returns the question and Alice replies that she only remembers him. They arrive and Alice marvels at the beauty of the place. Viola welcomes them and tells Victor that Gerbera wants to see him immediately. Alice heads to greet the staff, blowing Victor a kiss while he complains about her leaving him. Viola and Walter guide Victor to Gerbera's room. Walter confesses that he is the one who informed Gerbera about Viola visiting the villa, which is likely the reason she called Victor. Victor tells Walter not to worry about it and calls him a gentleman. Walter responds by yelling that Victor has no business giving him compliments, to which Victor apologizes. Viola finds both of them annoying and urges Victor to go inside, assuring him that they will wait for him outside. Once inside, Gerbera says it's been a long time. Victor agrees and she notes that it has been over 10 years since he was cursed and he still hasn't managed to break it. He stutters an apology, saying it seems like it may take a bit longer. Gerbera points out that it's already late and suggests they continue their conversation the next day, permitting him to stay the night. Victor mentions he has something he'd like to tell her, but she insists they can talk tomorrow. Outside, Viola commends Victor and adds that Gerbera was being kind today. Victor is surprised to know that was her kindness. Viola explains that he is used to Rob's and Alice's kindness. Walter then leads Victor to the guest room, and Victor wonders how Alice is doing. Meanwhile, all the maids gather around Alice like she's a hotshot influencer, commenting on how much she has grown and how beautiful she is, just like Sharon was. One maid expresses guilt for not being able to help Alice when her relatives took her after Sharon's death. She apologizes and Alice thanks her. Alice is then being taken to her old room which she shared with her mother. Gerbera steps out of her room and sees Alice. She is surprised and calls her Sharon. The maid corrects her saying it's Sharon's daughter. Realizing this, Gerbera notes that Alice's black outfit resembles Sharon's and asks her to forget what happened. The maid explains to Alice that Gerbera and Sharon were very close and cheerful, but after Sharon passed away, Gerbera began to act differently. Alice's thoughts about her mother are interrupted by Victor's visit. He asks if the other servants gave her a hard time, but Alice replies that they are quite friendly. She asks about Victor and he tells her they only spoke briefly, but Gerbera hasn't changed at all, and they'll speak more the next day. Alice is glad that he at least managed to speak normally with his mother. Victor says even though they have only been apart for a few hours, he missed her very much. Alice felt the same way. Victor admits to himself that she is very adorable and that his love for her grows with each passing second. However, he quickly pulls away, saying he doesn't think his sanity can hold out much longer. He informs her that he will be going to bed, as Viola is taking him tomorrow to the place where he was cursed. They say goodnight to each other and he leaves. Alice wishes they could have spent a little more time together. Viola asks Victor what it's like being back after so long and if he remembers anything, but he only recalls fragments. He finds the place smaller than he remembered, and Viola comments on how it looks nicer compared to the villa, wondering how Rob and Alice maintain it alone. They arrive at the spot. One of the servants had told her about it. Victor recognizes the place. He remembers that it was springtime. He was looking for a 4-leaf clover for Alice. He remembers the sudden smoke and somebody grabbing him from behind and cursing him to a miserable life without love. Although he almost forgot, being there triggers the memory. Viola mentions Rob told her Victor didn't remember Alice. She asks why, since she has been his childhood crush all along, and he explains that after being cursed he couldn't see her anymore, so he purged her from his memory to cope with his loneliness. Viola says it's great he could see her again, and Victor agrees. They meet Gerbera. Victor greets her. She doesn't respond, but instead warns Viola to stay farther away from him, labeling him dangerous. She also criticizes Viola's clothing, saying it's disgraceful. Gerbera finally turns to Victor and says she'll speak to him during dinner and he shouldn't be late. Victor wants to comfort his sister, but she says she's alright and used to it. She says being born into this family means they can't live their own lives. She says Victor may be the one who's better off. Victor arrives with Viola in the dining room. He sits at his place, the far end of the table. Before Victor can even take a spoon of food, Gerbera starts yapping like the Karen she is. She reminds Victor about their father's poor health and says they must decide ahead of time whether Victor or Walter will be his heir. She insists he must break his curse by spring or Walter will become the heir. Victor says he understands, and Gerbera concludes their conversation, permitting him to leave when he's done eating. Victor mentions he has something he'd like to discuss. When asked what it is, he says that it concerns Alice. Gerbera acknowledges seeing Alice and remarks that she's wife material, just like her mother. Victor excitedly agrees. Gerbera says Sharon was a wonderful person, always smiling and cheerful. She admits she still misses her to this day. But unlike their looks, it appears their personalities aren't so similar. Victor defends that Alice is cool and reserved, but she's a really great person. She's attractive and talented and has cute little mannerisms. He says she's perfect. Gerbera guesses that he likes her. Victor confirms this and explains that this is why he would like her approval. He continues to speak, but Gerbera interrupts, saying he must be joking. She reminds him that he is still a potential heir to the family title and insists that he should stop talking nonsense and focus on breaking his curse. She emphasizes that, as someone born into the aristocracy, he isn't free to love whomever he wishes, especially not a lowly maid who seems to be dripping at him all the time. Victor stands abruptly, interrupting her. He sternly confirms that he is completely serious. He accuses her of locking him away in the villa and that she has never tried to get to know him, but now she's trying to shackle his emotions and won't even approve of him loving Alice. He continues that Alice always acts as though she doesn't care about his curse. She treats him as a normal person and is his savior from dark times. If it wasn't for Alice, he'd have been long dead. He asks Gerbera to stop thinking only about the family and heirs and spend a little time thinking of her children. He declares that he will marry Alice, startling Walter and Viola, who look to their mother for her reaction. Victor concludes by stating that Walter, Viola, and he aren't her things, and with that he leaves. Viola and Walter hurry after him to see him off. The servant wants to go after them, but Gerbera stops him. She's impressed that the boy, once so gentle and meek, actually had the nerve to talk back to her. She realizes that he's grown a pair. Victor wishes he could have said it more skillfully, but Viola assures him that he did fine. Although it came as a shock, it was a priceless moment. Alice asks if anything is wrong, but Victor denies it, saying he simply didn't care for the dinner they served. She then suggests they head back, and he agrees. They decide to return to their house while Viola and Walker wave goodbye. Rob learns the reason Victor was summoned while playing cards. Having exhausted his cards, he decides to retire for the night. Victor thanks him for watching the house while they were away. Alice asks what the Duke would like to do next, but he thinks it wouldn't be much fun with just the two of them. When she starts to act mischievous, he immediately agrees to play cards. As they play, Victor tells Alice that he spoke to his mother about their relationship and that he loves her. When Alice asks what his mother said, he replies that she said nothing really. He explains that he has no regrets. It was something he would have had to tell her at some point because, regardless of their class or social position, he loves Alice. He wins the game but refuses the victory, saying that Alice has taught him many things, including how to love someone. He promises to give his love to her now and always. Eventually, Victor dozes off at the table, and Alice covers him with a blanket. She then confesses her love for him as if all the signals she'd been giving weren't enough.